Welcome back to the channel. Today we are trying something new. Definitely a change of pace from my usual content, and we're going to do a hypothetical rebuild of the New York Jets. And I know rebuilds usually are going to be something in Madden or like 2K, but today this is going to be one that I'm going to use just kind of my own resources, projections, and kind of just project a season or two for the New York Jets. Do the contracts, do the draft, and all of that. And I'm going to try to keep it as realistic as possible, but obviously this could never be 100% realistic, and not every domino will end up falling the way I have it in this video. This is just more a hypothetical if things pan out how I think they could. I'm going to use all the resources at my disposal to project how well this simulation will go, though, and try and not do like a Madden style rebuild where I trade the entire house and go 17-0, or tank the roster for 1,000,000 picks and take the entire first round. I'm going to be the new GM of this team, so I'm going to do it how I would do it if I was the GM. And without any further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to take over in the 2022 offseason, about where we are right now after the draft and free agency, just sometime in the summer, we could say June. And I think this roster is pretty much ready to compete this season. I like it a lot, and I'm not opposed to giving Zach Wilson a bit more help, though, if I can get it for a bargain. And first off, I'm going to assume that Mekhi Becton is back and ready, and there are no issues with him for the foreseeable future, because that off the field, like if he's holding out, whatever, we're not going to mess with that too much. But I will take a chance in free agency, though, here in the summer, and I'm going to scoop up the currently injured Odell Beckham Jr. for the discounted price of 1 year, $8 million, half guaranteed. He can't play this season, at least not until November or December, but I want him in the room to function at least as a mentor to my relatively young wide receiving core, namely with Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore, but also with the slight hope it could salvage some of what we'd hoped Denzel Mims could be. We have the salary cap, and this is a very low risk, high reward deal that could pay even more dividends if we're in a contending position by the time he's healthy, which right now as the GM, I am confident we will be. Otherwise, we're letting the roster ride for the remainder of the season. So now we are going to the trade deadline, and again, I'm not using Madden as like our simulation engine. I just do want to make that clear. I'm kind of choosing this myself and how I think things could go. I'm going to be using it as a visual aid later, but again, we're not using any Madden logic or anything like that. But we're 3-5 here at the trade deadline, and though Zach Wilson is having a solid season, I still want to see if I can go out and get some help, and we're exploring our options here at the trade deadline, but nothing really works out, and we just are going to continue on to the end of the season. And the team had a better season than we had last year. Here at the end of the season, we are 7-10 after a solid season in the AFC East, but definitely less than we were hoping. Again, to think we should just go automatically to a playoff spot is high hopes here in the organization, but I was really hoping that Zach Wilson could really take a big step and the rest of the roster could match it, but, everything couldn't work out perfectly this year. And let's recap kind of how everyone did in this simulated season. Zach was good, not great, and played at about a Mac Jones level of efficiency with a lot of upside that we hope to see in year 3. Our 1-2 punch of Breece Hall and Michael Carter was fun, but the offensive line certainly needs improvement for both them and Zach Wilson to be effective consistently. Garrett Wilson had a good year. He wasn't rookie of the year, but he was in the conversation for a lot of the year. CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin were both good, not great, and the offense overall was about dead average in the league. Now let's talk about the defense. The front four were outstanding, and Carl Lawson showed to be the player that we wanted him to be when we paid him a couple seasons ago before I was the GM. And Quinnen Williams and John Franklin Myers were both great on the interior, and Jermaine Johnson was very, very good as a rookie. The corners were great as well, with Sauce Gardner proving his worth as a top 4 pick and finding surprising success for a rookie corner in the league. He probably did allow a touchdown, though. However, the safeties were well below average, as Ashton Davis and LaMarcus Joyner didn't get it done. Jordan Whitehead was all right, but we kind of played a lot of 3 safety, and those guys were just not getting it done. And the linebacking core was definitely the worst part of the defense, and we definitely need to make some major changes on our off the line of scrimmage guys this offseason. So our safeties, our linebackers, but corner and D-line is definitely looking up. So now it is on to the offseason, where we need to re-sign our guys, pick up some new additions in free agency, and most importantly, draft. With quite a bit of cap room at our disposal, we have some big decisions to make. I'm happy with Zach Wilson's development, as he's established himself as a solid top 20 quarterback this season with many signs of improvement. So we need to continue to build around him and further his development more, as well as I think our main priority is getting the defense just the guys off the ball. Again, getting a lot of talent in there too. So now let's talk our free agents. Quinnen Williams wants a big time deal, and we are giving him a 4-year, $78 million deal to stick around here in the Big Apple. Again, contract details, I'm making them as accurate as I can project, but if you disagree with the money, I'm sorry. Specifics are not going to matter too incredibly much, but 4 years, $78 million is what Quinnen Williams is going to get. Other than that, there's no one too much of note in this free agent class for us, and it's time to make a splash now in unrestricted free agency. So first off, we are making a huge signing, and we're offering former Bengals franchise tag safety Jessie Bates III a deal he can't refuse. 5 years, $85 million with $65 million guaranteed. He's now essentially the highest paid safety in the league, at least top 3, depending on how some guys restructure contracts. And we're also signing Jack Conklin, the former Browns tackle, to a 2-year, $25 million deal that is also going to allow us to cut George Fant off of the books, not even spend too much money more, but we wish that experiment could have worked out, but we need a proven veteran to hold down the line right now, and Conklin is going to be that guy. We also debated releasing CJ Mosley and saving $15.5 million in cap room, but we decided to keep him around for 1 more year and let him play out his contract rather than just cutting him and having to figure out a bad situation at linebacker. We don't have much talent there at all. And again, if we needed the $15 million this year, he'd be gone pretty easily. But with lacking talent at linebacker in free agency, we're just going to bite the bullet for the year. We also signed Corey Littleton to a 1-year deal worth $2 million and Kenny Young to a 2-year, $2.5 million deal. Now it's time for the draft. And we went 7-10, so we have the 11th overall pick in the first, 43 in the second, 75th in the third, and so on. And I definitely am considering trading up for, a superstar talent. And I think that'd be a very viable possibility. But our main need is linebacker. So that is going to be our main. We're definitely going to bring in a, relatively high pick at linebacker. We could also use a rotational pass rusher, a cornerback, and probably an interior lineman. And I think we're going to go pretty much best player available for the most part. And, because any kind of superstar would, I think, elevate us to the next level. I don't care what position it's at. If we can get a huge, one of the best players in the draft, then we're going to do that. And I'm definitely interested in guys like Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, as I think they're worth trading up for, and obviously not positions of need at all because our defensive line is probably the best part of our team. But I think they could both be generational talents, and I'm definitely looking into it. But they're going to go pretty high, at least higher than we can really afford to trade up to, and we're going to stick and pick at number 11. To our surprise, Jaxon Smith-Njigba is here, as well as Noah Sewell, Eli Ricks, and a lot of edge rushers. And there's a lot of debate in the war room as Jaxon Smith-Njigba could be the guy, and we just really don't have room to bring him in. He's probably, at least very possibly, the next great player at receiver, but we genuinely have no room for him. If there's a generational, if Will Anderson is here, if Jalen Carter is here, we pick them because we can fit them in. But at receiver, we really just don't have the room, with Garrett Wilson being great, Elijah Moore being great, Corey Davis is still a above average starter for us, and Denzel Mims is a guy we can rotate in. So Jaxon Smith-Njigba might be our 3-year one, and he could eventually end up being our 1, but we need linebacker right now, and we are going to turn in the pick for Noah Sewell, the linebacker out of Oregon. It might be a bit high for a linebacker, but I believe in his talent, and I know that's maybe not best player available. I think he was up there, but I think it's just a very necessary pick, and I'm very happy with getting him there. Now, we're going to let the first round play out, but at the top of day 2, we're moving up. It takes our 2nd, our 4th, and 6th round picks to move up 10 spots from 43 to 33, where we saw a corner we just really couldn't miss out on here at the top of the 2nd. So welcome to New York, Clark Phillips III, the corner from Utah, who had a great rise in this past college football season that hasn't happened, but I think he's going to be a great addition to the secondary, and now we are much improved with the additions of him and Jessie Bates. So now, continuing on to day 2, we have our 3rd round pick, 75, and Arkansas center Ricky Stromberg is just sitting on the board here, and he's going to be the last piece of our newly revamped offensive line. So, with trading our 4th and our 6th, that's pretty much going to wrap up the draft, as we're not going to get into some of these late round picks that aren't going to be important for this video. And we're going to have filled pretty much almost every big need that we have. So now let's go over the roster for the 2022 season. Now here, we're going to use Madden as our visual aid. So disregard the overalls completely and the development traits, all that. Especially if you're a Madden player like me, it's kind of hard to avoid. You see like, oh, a 60 overall center or a normal development receiver. You're like, should that really be my one? But completely disregard that. It's a little tough for me, but let's, talk about this roster. And, here on the offensive side of the ball, I think we've done a great job building around Zach Wilson. I mean, the offensive line is much improved, bringing in Stromberg, because we have 4 proven guys to help out this rookie center, who I definitely believe is still going to be very good due to him being ultra dependable in college. The offensive line, from left to right, all guys that I am very happy with having on our roster, and I think they're going to help us take a big jump this season. Our running back duo is now, probably borderline elite with this offensive line, and our receiver room is still very deep with guys like Garrett Wilson, hopefully continuing to develop into true, stars. But there really isn't a glaring weakness here, and that was my precise goal heading into this offseason, to make sure we had help everywhere and Zach Wilson can continue to develop. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, the front 4 is the same and still great, but I'm pretty happy as well with what we did to the linebacker room. They're definitely still an average at best unit right now, but if Noah Sewell develops into what we think he can be, we're looking great for the future, despite having, Mosley, Littleton, and Young, who are all stopgaps. They should be solid this year and not too much of a liability, though probably still somewhat at times. Cornerback room is still good, and with the addition of our guy Clark Phillips III, I like it more, and getting Jesse Bates to pair with Jordan Whitehead should be a possibly elite safety duo for the future. And I'm very happy with how this roster has progressed, so now it's time to see what they could do on the field. So now let's see where we are at the trade deadline. And to make a quick interjection, we're clearly getting way out of realism at this point, and it's impossible to project, what the Jets are going to look like midway through 2023. But I'm going to do my best for it to make sense. So bear with me. If you disagree with how many games we win or lose, that's just part of the process. But at the trade deadline here, we are 4-4. Zach Wilson is looking better and better, and it's clear we can get over the hump, but we just haven't clicked yet, and I think our best football is definitely ahead of us in the second half of the season. And we're going to snoop around the league, see who's on the trade block, and see if there's any good players available, and a couple players do spark my interest. We never got a great rotational pass rusher to be our third guy in the room after Carl Lawson and Jermaine Johnson, and there are a couple big-name veterans out there on the trade block. Ironically, they're both former Chiefs or current Chiefs, and it's Dee Ford and Frank Clark. Now, these are not great starting caliber players here in 2023. I don't even really think, as a Chiefs fan, that Frank Clark is in 2021 or 2022, but trading their bad contracts away to teams with a lot of space like us is something both the 49ers and Chiefs do want to get done. So we really have our pick and shouldn't have to give up a ton of value to grab them, as it's really just a second half of the season through playoffs, if we make it, rental, and we certainly aren't re-signing them after this season. So after negotiating with both teams and seeing kind of how much value they want, we bring in a currently healthy Dee Ford from the 49ers to add a bit of juice to our pass rush as a complement to our current guys. We give up our 2024 fifth-round pick for him and a 2025 sixth, which is a deal that we're fairly happy with. Now let's see how this upgraded pass rush contributes to the rest of the season. And things went a lot better in the second half. We end the season on a 6-3 run to finish 10-7, our best record in quite a long time. And due to the AFC East having a very subpar season, we somehow win the division and are hosting a wildcard game. We're the 4 seed playing the 5-seeded Ravens, who went 12-5 on the season, and as you may have guessed, this is going to be a tough matchup. But let's talk more about how the season went and take another look at the lineup. Zach Wilson did his thing and is a consensus top half of the league quarterback, with some having them as high as just outside of the top 10. The upgraded line was just great and due for a lot of the credit on how the offense functioned. Brees and Michael continued to develop at running back, and Garrett Wilson is continuing to improve a ton as our clear-cut receiver one. Elijah Moore is also doing great as well in the slot. On the defensive side, we really stepped it up. The D-line continued to be great and was great stopping the run this year, and the small addition of Dee Ford definitely contributed to making our pass rush better as well. Our safety tandem was elite. The linebackers held up as best they could as they cleared weak point of the defense, and Sauce has continued to improve into a well above average cornerback one as well. Hamza Nasruddin also ended up taking Corey Littleton's spot at outside linebacker during the season, but that's not too important either. But now let's talk playoffs. We match up against Baltimore, but Lamar Jackson, who won league MVP in this simulation, is just a tough player to stop. Our rush defense was top 10 in the league this year, though, so hopefully we can contain them to some degree on the ground. And after a tough fight, we're not going to get into too much. And this game comes down to the wire, and we fall 24-21 to Lamar and the Ravens here in the wild card. Zach did his best, but he threw a pair of interceptions down the stretch, and that turned into 10 points for Baltimore. So kind of blame him, but the rest of the team held up pretty well. It just wasn't our best game, wasn't our day, but we came to play for the most part, and this was a much improved season and definitely something to build off for the future as we look into the offseason and hopefully improve this team and build upon this success. But that's going to wrap it up for this video, as it's definitely stretching on a little bit, but please let me know what you guys think of this video, and if you want me to continue this in a part 2, maybe even part 3, if we get to that. I'd love to continue this series, as these are very fun to make, but also very time consuming, and I want to make sure you guys enjoy this before I make another one, because this could just be a one-off video that doesn't do too well. But I want to see what you guys think of this, because if this is a hit, then I would love to keep doing these. Maybe we finish the Jets, we do more teams, stuff like that. So like the video if you enjoyed it, so I can gauge how entertaining this was, and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to also suggest ways I can improve this format and improve this video in the future to, you know, help me kind of make this better quality. And I have a ton more content on the way and a ton of different styles too. So let me know what kind of videos you want to continue to see, and, you know, which ones are your favorite and you want to see kind of dominate this channel. And thank you so much for watching. And again, let me know what you think of this, because this is completely new territory for me, and I want to see what you guys think of this before we make this a series, because I think this would be definitely very interesting. I haven't seen a video like this personally. I've always wanted to do one, so I want to hear what you guys think of that. But again, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.